Hello and welcome to Addiction Talk. This is our final episode of Addiction Talk for Recovery Month, a time when we're telling stories of people who are achieving sobriety, who are rocking sobriety. And our guest today is no different. She has 33 years of sobriety. But first, you have to take a listen to her story. Captain Sandy Yan is a world renowned captain in the yachting industry and the captain on Bravo's reality show Below Deck Mediterranean. Sandy's early years were far from smooth sailing. By the age of 17, her drinking had resulted in a court ordered detox after an arrest for drinking and driving, a charge that has sent her to jail multiple times. On the show, Sandy has opened up about her previous struggles with addiction and how alcoholism runs in her family. Today, she is living the life of her dreams and celebrating 33 years in recovery. Addiction Talk starts now. Well, welcome, Sandy, to the show. First of all, I want to congratulate you on 33 years of sobriety. I think you are probably the longest running person in sobriety that we've had on the show to date. So, congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you for the intro. And that's awesome, actually. And I hope to keep going.
Well, you are going to keep going. You know what? Because 33 years, and that's why we wanted to talk to you, because there's so many people who are either struggling right now or who are in the early stages of their sobriety journey. I see people saying, yay, Sandy, who are in the early stages of their sobriety journey and want to hear how you've been able to do this and to really just learn more about your journey. But first, I know everybody wants to know, because you're in the midst of the show, how is everything going with the show? October 3rd is another episode, so I have to check in with that first.
Yeah, the show is, honestly, is a result of my being sober and clean. Honestly, I would have never had this if I was out there using. I probably would be dead by now. The show's doing well. It will do well without me. And I think they've done a great job at creating a storyline, and it is really reality. And a lot of what you see on television, if you watch the show, is a direct result of all the work that I've done in recovery.
And so, why do you think? I know you've coined it like I'm living the life of my wildest dreams. What was it about recovery that allowed you to be at this point that you're at today? That you have a career you love, but you're also a reality TV star.
Well, I mean, back in the day, like you shared in the beginning, at 17, I was court ordered to court. I was in and out of jails and institutions for many years. I landed in Fort Lauderdale at another halfway house, and they talk about this psychic change that takes place. And it happened. It finally happened. And as a result of that, and working the steps, getting a sponsor, and living it on a daily basis, and building on my character and getting rid of the stuff that didn't work anymore, making restitution, they promise you a life beyond your wildest dreams. When they those promises, and it is. And I wake up every day, I clean up, I dress up, and I show up. And I pinch myself and go, if they only knew when I'm driving them out to sea my past. I don't know if they trust me.
Because for you, Sandy, like you mentioned, you were in and out of jail. Your court order to detox. How bad was it for you? If we look back and people say, what was your past really like? I mean, we see you today, but take me back to what you were struggling with and what that looked like during that time.
Absolutely. Marijuana was my gateway drug. Alcohol was my choice of drug. And I ended up smoking crack cocaine and lost everything, just like a lot of other people. Addiction robbed my life. I don't know why my life has been spared so many times. I've been hit by cars, car crash after car crash. I've been arrested 14 times. I've been in halfway houses and detoxes all over the state of Florida. I've spent time in treatment programs, and the seed was planted. I shared with you earlier. I had no idea. I would use and think, yeah, this is great, until it wasn't great. And then after I was 17 and I was court ordered, I thought, now I knew there was a way out, but I didn't know how to get out, if you know what I mean. So it was easy for me to stop. It was hard for me to stay stopped. I had a good forgetter. I would think, oh, wow, I got a paycheck at the end of the week. And next thing you know, I'm out and running. I couldn't stay sober or clean for 90 days. I kept relapsing. I relapsed from the age of 17 until 25. And
How many times would you say you relapsed?
hundreds. I mean, to the point where people go, I can't help you. I had a sponsor in St. Petersburg and she goes, Sandy, sponsoring you is hurting me.
Whoa.
Because every time you go out, I worry about you. So she goes, I can't help you, clearly. And I remember walking into a treatment center, a halfway house, and the director looked at me and she goes, you're not worth the paperwork. Every time you come in, I do all this paperwork and you relapse. And that was in 1989. And I'll never forget it. The difference was this time I had a job still, which I never had. I'd always get fired, and I wasn't actually in jail or in a treatment center. I was in a halfway house and begged her to let me back in because I had relapsed. And she told me that, and I thought, I'm not worth the paperwork. I never had anyone tell me that. So that was my final time of relapsing, was that day when she told me that.
And what do you think it was about that she said that hit you so hard?
Paperwork. You just fill out some paper, right? I can understand if a sponsor says you hurt me, it hurts me trying to help you. I get that. But filling out paperwork, and I don't know what it was. It was that psychic change. And I went back every day and begged her, could I come back? And there's a place called Stepping Stones in Fort Lauderdale. And she said to me, because I kept going back and eating free lunches and dinners, that she didn't kick me out. Like I still got to eat there. And she said, you give me your paycheck every week. I got $10 a week to live on. And I smoked at the time, cigarettes. That was not a lot of money. I had to give her my paycheck every week because she knew my paycheck was my relapse. And I lived in that halfway house for 6 months. And that was my beginning. And I went to meetings. I got a sponsor. I picked my sponsor because she drove a fast car and listened to cool music. That's how because I wanted to be like her. Like I saw like this cool woman driving this cool car, music. And I thought, I want to be like her. So I asked her to be my sponsor. Her name was Tammy. She was my sponsor. She took me through the steps. And I've stayed sober. I haven't picked up a drug or an alcohol from that, time. And today I'm clean. And
wait, Sandy, first of all, I have to go back because that's huge. First of all, be relapsing over 100 times. You have somebody tell you you're not worth the paperwork, which it's heartbreaking to me to hear her say that, honestly, because that's heartbreaking. Yeah. But then you use that and say, kind of like, I'm going to prove you wrong. In a way, I wonder if your mind was like, I'm going to prove you wrong. And I have to ask this question. Has she seen you now, or did she get a chance to see who you became? And have you had conversations since then?
Yes. And she's so grateful. In fact, she allowed me to stay on her property after, because I said, I don't trust myself, because the program was finished. And she said, you can rent a place from me, which was on her property. And I did for another 3 months. So yes, she knows.
But she knows that you're a reality star and that you got in the.
Yeah. Well, we haven't talked since then. I'm sure she does. That was so many years ago. Like,
he's probably like, I told her. I mean, of course, she probably thinks that maybe that was jarring enough to you that it was like your wake up call for you. But still, I can only imagine watching you on TV now, what goes through her mind, because what goes through my mind is there's probably a mother, a father, somebody who's looking at their child or a young person or somebody in their life and going, they're hopeless.
Right. That's how I felt, hopeless. And I just think about all the people from the age of 13 when I started using through the time of 25, that the trail of destruction was the tornado of Sandy, like so many others before me and after me, and just destroying relationships and property and stealing and, all those things. And then to the point now, and what I want to say to those people is people did give up, and that's okay. But there was a person out there who didn't. And you just got to
Mm.
find the one. And it's not the parent's job to think you can save your kid. They have to want to save themselves. And that a guy taught me this years ago. His name was Bill Stiles. I'll never forget him. He's passed away years. I was in a detox in Manatee County. And he goes, Sandy, you can make a horse. He goes, you can bring the horse to water, but people say you can't make them drink, but you can kick them in the butt and kick them in the water and they get some on their mouth. And he goes, and that's what I'm doing to you. A little bit of AA, and that's what really helped. Like he never gave up on me. I always had a bed at this detox. Once a month, I would rotate in just to stay out of jail. I figured out how to work the system. I say I'm an addict, alcoholic, take me to Glen Ridge. And I'd go to that detox. And it was people like him that didn't give up on me. And that's okay. The people that couldn't do it, like, I get it. I have my own family members I've had to do this to. I tried, but I know that I'm only hurting them by enabling them. So when you no longer do that, they have to choose. I had to choose. There was
So
no.
are you grateful for what she said then?
Yes. I don't think I would have stayed clean. It made
As
me.
heartbreaking as it was, there's a part of you that
Yes.
is grateful.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, that had to happen in order for me to something click, that psychic change. And they talk about it in the big book. Like that happened that day for me. Listen, the craving for alcohol was still there. I still wanted to smoke pot, but that mental thing that had to happen happened.
That shift that happened for you. You know what's really interesting, because you talk about that craving was still there, and we're looking at you 33 years out in your sobriety. Do you still crave it? Is it still as hard, or does it ever get easier?
It gets easier. I don't crave it, but there are sometimes I go, I just wish I could have a glass of wine. I wish I could smoke a joint. I wish I could try all these edibles. Now it's all legal. I haven't tried half those drinks and cocktails and fancy bars, but in my mind, I think I'm not like others. I am not. My body chemistry is different. The minute I do that, everything changes. And I may be able to do it successfully, but why would I take the risk and just put everything that I've built on the line just so I can have a drink or a drug? It's not worth it.
I can see that mindset that you have now. But you said it does get easier because there's somebody who maybe they're in their first 90 days or, you're like, whoo, what point did you find that it became a little easier, that it wasn't a constant thought that you had to think about?
After I worked the steps. Honestly, when I started working the steps, I've had sponsors through the years, but when we talked about hopeless, I had this one sponsor, Patty, and she said, I want you to write one word for each step to describe how you feel. And the first step for me was hopeless. I felt hopeless. I never felt worthy to look up at the sky. And so when I worked the steps and I believed in a power greater than myself, I always have. I didn't have a problem with that. And I did 4 and 5. I cleaned house. And then I got to see my character shortcomings. And I thought, my sponsor taught me where you're going to have opportunities to practice different character, right? So I got to build on my character because I wanted to change through the work I did. And I, chaired meetings. I cleaned at the time I was going to meetings, cleaned a lot of ashtrays, which was one place I was going to meetings. They called the fire department because smoke was pouring out of the windows so much. That's how much people smoked. And so I worked those steps, and I always share this because I would go out and buy stuff on credit and not even think about paying it back. I was like, I'm not paying that, right? Because I was out there. My sponsor made me write down every creditor I owed money to. And I had to go sit in front of them. She drove me to these places, and I go, I want to make restitution. This is what I can pay you. Some places I paid $5 a week. I paid every one of those people back. That is freeing. That is freeing. After the 9th step, they talk about how the promises come true. I'm telling you, that's exactly how it worked for me. That is when the shift occurred. And,
working those steps, because I can only imagine what that was like. But I want to go back to something you said, because you said you felt hopeless. Why do you think you felt so hopeless at that time?
everybody was washing their hands of me. Plus, I had no self-esteem. It was under the floor. Like I didn't think I was worthy of looking up. I was hopeless. I had a hopeless state of mind and body. Like I was not well. I had that mental hopelessness. And when I walked into the meeting, because I was in and out of meetings and they were like, oh, she's back again. That shift that occurred for me after that, I wasn't worth the paperwork. It was different. And people saw that I was different. And they then gathered around me. I have to say, they didn't turn me away ever. I was never turned away. They were there for me. And it works. It works if you work it. And that's the truth. When I rest on my laurels and I, don't do the work, then stuff starts to happen. Things start to go wrong. Every day I wake up, I go, your will, not mine. Because my will got me in the shape I was in. For me, God's my higher power. God's will, I want it. Because when I try to go against it, it's like just things go wrong. And it's just much easier just to do it that way.
Now, when you look back, Sandy, and you think, wow, I was somebody who told me I wasn't worth the paperwork, and looking at where you are now, how do you even describe that?
It's so far back. And I see why people with long-term sobriety relapse, because it's a big difference from where I was. I don't even remember that person. And that's dangerous. That's dangerous. So I have to be reminded. And how I get reminded is I tap into my family some of them haven't changed. And I go, oh, and I hear the stories and I go, oh yeah, I drove my motorcycle up the side of a building. It landed on top of me. Like I slid down a highway. I was always, all the stories they remind me of, I was always in a hospital recovering. I thought, that's not fun. Because for me, I thought drinking and using drugs were fun. And then it became like, I guess a necessity. I don't know. It was just second nature. Now, second nature is wake up, dress up, clean up, show up, and do the next right thing. Like over that time, I don't remember. So I reach out to those people to help me remember. And by helping another individual who's coming in, who's trying to get clean. I've never really been a sponsor. I tried it one time and that's just not me. And that's okay. But I do it in other ways. I'm being used in a different way. And listen, I still have a sponsor. I love meetings. I love going to meetings because it's like-mindedness. I need to have that connection, that community, that spiritual connection. And in the beginning, I thought these people are weird. It's a brainwash. It's all of this. But I kept going because someone said to me, but it's a good brainwash, Sandy. Try it. That's the way you think of it, right? My brain needed a cleaning.
Well, you know what I love about you, Sandy, is you talk about helping other people and you feel like God's given you kind of this mission. Even being on the show, you said, I didn't seek this out. This came to me. We've kind of talked about that. But you've also used the show as an opportunity to say something when you see something. And you had a candid conversation at one point with one of your castmates. How did you, one, know when you should say something? And what led you say now is the time that I can share with the world what I've been going through or what I went through?
Well, it wasn't intentional. So first of all, I didn't cast for the show. It landed in my lap. I did not seek it. It came to me. I was reluctant about doing the show. Then I thought those, the lifeboat, the 2 lifeboats in the helicopter. It's like, okay, this is like the 3rd time it's coming up. So I did it. The dude has a plan. So this kid, I smelled alcohol. He was on watch. I went to the producers and I said, I really don't want to do this on camera, but I want to have a conversation. And they go, would you mind doing it on camera? And I thought, if he's okay with it. So they didn't ask him. I thought they did. So when I started talking about it, you can tell he was a little uncomfortable, but I think because the way I shared from my personal experience, it relaxed him because that's how it works, right? So you have to identify with someone who's been there and done that. And that's the miracle, is that's our job. I feel like, when someone reaches out the hand, he wasn't reaching it out, but I thought of Bill Stiles, I'm kicking that horse in the water and he's going to taste a little bit. I'm going to let him know there's a way out. And because he's a great guy.
Mhm.
And, I've done it with other people through the years where I've had the opportunity before TV, because our industry is full of it, right? Just like other industries. And
Mhm.
I just share with them, I used to be like that. There's another way. And
Mhm.
if you want help, I'll take you to a meeting or
Was
help
it
you
hard to
with.
do that on camera? I mean, did you have I know you said that you
No, it
wanted to.
wasn't hard. I'm telling you, that was natural. I didn't even
Mhm.
think about the camera, but I did
Mhm.
ask the producers if I could do it off camera for him, not for me. I had no shame in people seeing what a mess I was. What's wrong with showing them how well I'm doing? So I was always in trouble. Now I'm actually doing something great with my life. Why wouldn't I want people to see the result of staying clean and sober?
So what would you tell to somebody else who maybe in their profession or their family comes across somebody that they see is struggling? Do you say something and how do you know? I mean, I know you're not an expert per se, but what would you say to somebody when it's a good time to say, "Hey, I've noticed and I just want to share or I just want to give you some insight."
Yeah, for me, the reason I confronted him is because he was on anchor watch, and I can't have someone. He should have been fired, right? But I give people three chances. I think if you're an employer or a coworker, just ask them out for a coffee, ask them out, and just say, hey. Some people might lose their minds and go, it's none of your business, but at least you planted that seed. You got a little water in their mouth by
Mhm.
kicking them in the horse in the pond. Like that's the way I look at it. I, it's not like a approach where you pounce on them. It's an approach where, hey, I have concern. Can we talk? A lot of people are threatened by that, but at least you tried. And some people are open and they'll just fall apart and share everything. And then you help them, the next step. And
Mhm.
treatment centers like you guys, like treatment centers, I've been to many and they've helped me. They've helped me. I've learned something in every treatment center I've
It's
been.
like these little seeds
That's
that
right.
you've been getting.
Yes.
Mhm.
And the people you meet along the way. I remember meeting this girl. I was in detox. That was back in the day when we were in beds lined up next to each other. People were going through DTs, brushing little dragons off their skin. I got to see where I could end up. And I remember helping
Mhm.
this woman. She was so thin to the bathroom, and I pulled her pants down so she could go to the bathroom. I was 17.
Mm.
And I helped her pull her pants back up because that's what human beings do, especially after you get sober. And I was in this detox with, all ages, all walks of life. And we're still friends today, you know.
From 17?
Yep. Isn't that cool?
That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think
Sober.
about all the people that you've touched, Sandy, I can only imagine. I mean, we saw, like you said, with the castmate where you had that interaction. Do you feel like most people have been receptive to it, or do you often just see yourself as like planting that seed?
Honestly, I don't think about it. It is
Mm.
natural. I don't have uh, it's just something that's innate in me because I've lived it for so many years. And people did that for me. I can't tell you how many employers came up to me. This one guy goes, Sandy, you're a great employee. You're
Mm.
excellent. But your drinking is affecting your work, right? Because I kept drinking and driving. That was my problem. And I was delivering parts.
Mm.
But that was hard. So it's natural. I'm compelled. And I speak from my heart, my own experience.
I can tell that just from hearing your story. So powerful. And I want to get some golden nuggets from you. I know we're coming close up on the half hour, but you have so much wisdom in being 33 years. So what was the best piece of advice you've been given in sobriety and the worst piece of advice? That
Best piece of advice is meeting makers make it. That was the best because even
okay.
on a good day, I show up for others, right?
You
It,
still go to meetings today, you said?
oh yeah, absolutely. That works for me.
Mhm.
So that was the best advice. Just go no matter what, right? Um, the worst advice. Do you want to smoke a joint?
That
You
wasn't
know,
good.
that was the worst advice with this guy, Ray. And I'm like, sure. That was back in the day, though. But I don't really think I had any bad advice in Alcoholics Anonymous or in recovery. I think that most people that go there want to stay clean. They're just trying to find a way out of their hell. You know, I climbed out of hell so many times, and I went back there and I kept climbing out, and I'm out. And it is a
Mm.
freedom. It is a life beyond your wildest dreams. Just do the work. And that was the best advice, is do the work, right? Show up, clean up,
Don't
show
give
up.
up.
Yeah, give up. That's right. I am no longer in charge. Turn your life over to that. And I did. I got a sponsor from day one, even though she had a cool car. She was a great sponsor, by the way. And you evolve, and life evolves, your recovery evolves. Sometimes you outgrow your sponsor, and I did in that case, and I got another sponsor. And keep working the steps, do the cleanup, right? 10, 11,
Man,
and 12, they work. Because I always share with people, I wish these steps were made for the mental side, right? It's not so, like Bill Stiles said years ago, if you have a drunk horse thief and you sober him up, what do you have?
same thing. Mm-hmm.
Horse
Get
thief,
it. Mm-hmm.
right? He's still a horse thief. Now you gotta, that's the step work, right?
Mm,
That
mm-hmm.
is the stuff that where you do the work. So I'm no longer a horse thief.
Mm. And one of the things that I wanted to also point out about your journey is not only did you survive, and you said you feel like you've been given so many chances.
Mhm.
You talked about the motorcycle accident, but you've also had a heart attack. You've also
Mhm.
battled cancer, kidney
Mhm.
cancer. You just keep coming back. So, how did the sobriety journey equip you or even empower you to go through some of these other challenges in your life?
I look at it like, a part of it slow down, right? So I remember when I got hit by a car, I thought, full stop. Your entire life stops. Every plan I had, no longer. And I was in the hospital and they discovered kidney cancer. And I'm thinking, God, you could have like showed me in a different way. But I needed to
Mm.
slow down. The heart attack was unchecked high blood pressure. I was in Soul Cycle. Uh, how I was equipped was pay attention. I mean, still today, I don't have all the answers. What I got out of those experiences, slow down, check your health, make sure you're in good health. Like, I learned a lot about heart disease. Both my parents died of heart attacks, so it slowed me down. That's what it did. And I remember when I was flipping in the air when I got hit by the motorcycle, I felt my mother's presence. She's in heaven. And I
Mm.
thought, oh, I'm going to see my mom. I'm going to heaven. I felt her presence. And I
Mhm.
woke up on that pavement and I was like, are you freaking kidding me?
You're
Like,
like,
I mean, I had was shattered, internal bleeding, and I was not happy. The first thing I did though was, can I move? And then here's the crazy part. The girl that hit me was standing over me, asking me, was I okay? And I go, yes, just call 911. She got clean. I think she was using when she hit me. My lawyer told me about it. She went to treatment. And I'm like, it could have been a little gentler, right? But isn't that great?
mm.
I haven't stayed in touch. I don't know, but that's what I heard.
So, Sandy, do you feel as we wrap up that you're like on this mission, like a
Yeah, I
mission
feel
from
like
God?
yeah, I feel like the dude's got a plan for me, and I try to show up every day. And, even before I talk, I say a prayer, like, use your words, because every word I ever say usually was a lie, or embellishment. And today I don't have to lie anymore. I don't have to look in my rearview mirror if there's a police behind me. I don't have to fake it. I just have to show up because I'm actually clean. I'm a whole person. And that is such an
Mm.
incredible feeling. People say, what if you didn't have the show tomorrow? I go, I'd still be
Mhm.
Sandy.
You
Like,
can, yeah. And
yeah,
I mean, the wild ride that you had and
yeah,
all that you've been able to achieve and who you've been able to impact. And I do see a question coming in. So I wanted to get that before I ask my final question. But they wondered if you've ever been worried about any of the young people and the drinking on below deck and how you've been able to navigate that. I know we talked about the one castmate, but since we
yeah.
have a question, I gotta bring that to you too.
Absolutely. Of course. I think about it all the time, but it's their journey, right? So I'm a presence. They know they can come to me, but I'm not there to force it down their throat. They have to be willing. Yes, I can kick the horse in the water and get more water on their mouth. But there was a girl, she was violently ill, alcohol poisoning. And a lot of cast members, I say to them, alcohol is not your friend. Clearly, look at yourself. Every time something bad happened, was alcohol a part of it? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, just look at that. And that's what I do with the cast members.
And it's been more than once, several
It's
times,
it's every oh yeah, every season.
every season. So we don't get to see all of that, but every
Absolutely.
season there has been something. Well, this journey and conversation with you, Sandy, has just been so
Thank
enlightening. And so my final question for you is, what's next for you? I know you said if Below Deck went away, Below Deck Mediterranean went away tomorrow, I'm still Sandy. But what's next for you? What do
you.
you
know,
feel?
I actually have
Yeah.
thank you. I have, it's so interesting. I have a book coming out, and in recovery, we read a lot of Hay House, right? Louise Hay. Out of all the people that were, interested in the book, guess who got it? Hay
Who?
House. So I have a Hay House book coming out January 10th, and it's a leadership book, but I talk about my personal journey. And they have this chapter in the big book to the employer. So I speak to that. The other part is what we're doing next is this show right here, the Captain Sandy Leah Ray Show, because it's not about Below Deck. It is about doing the next right thing. So Leah started seeing me, and she was a gospel singer, and they did away with her. No more. She can sing on the platforms. And her daughter was 16. And so we're bringing her daughter in just to help people, because it is a journey. And life is not everybody's an addict, but we need those tools to build on our character. So that's what's next.
Girl, you gonna be busy.
Busy.
So we will make sure. I know you're still in the midst of season 7 of the show, so of course we're tuning in for that. And just thank you, Sandy. We've had so many, so many comments here tonight. Just thank you for your time and for sharing your story.
Oh, girl, someone wrote "kick the horse in the water." I'm like, kick that horse in the water.
Kick that horse in the water. And I know you're going to continue to do big things. Yes. And that's going to do it for another edition of Addiction Talk. Thank you, everyone who tuned in tonight. Make sure to share this with your friends, because everyone needs to hear this story. It's going to be life-changing. Good night.